Now I think we're running into a situation, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, because I get that effort is part of your defense, but I also think it's at this point, like this defense is just bad, and now it looks exponentially bad because they're playing really good teams offensively that have super talented offensive players that if you put a bad defense on them, they're going to have career nights, and that's what we just saw.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
Hello and welcome into another edition of Three Ma. I'm John Kurtz, joined by Derek Young and Cole Manbeck. We're going to talk a lot of hoops today, a little bit of football at the end, some transfer portal updates that do seem encouraging for the Wildcats, but unfortunately it's yet another loss, 6 straight for K-State in Big 12 play. They go down in Waco 70-62 despite leading by 12 in the second half. It all came undone, and you know what that means. Drown your sorrows with the help of our friends from Holiday Distillery. Ben Holiday bottled in bond bourbon or 360 vodka are right there for you anytime K-State blows a double-digit lead. But you're gearing up for perhaps a watch party for the Chiefs this weekend, right? AFC Championship game, 360 vodka, Ben Holiday bottled in bond bourbon. They'll be crowd pleasers for everybody. So make sure you go out and get those. They're great cats. They're K-Staters, so support them because they support us. Man, for a while, this was a pretty encouraging performance. And I suppose if we're grading on the scale of what this season has been, it certainly was not like an embarrassing effort. This was not getting beaten by 30, which after the Houston game, it felt like, all right, is this what every game this year is going to turn into? But shorthanded Baylor playing without Jeremy Roach just killed K-State in the second half. They score 44 points. Absolutely no answer for BJ Edgecombe, who scored 30. Absolutely no answer at all. And once Baylor went to a zone defensively, K-State's offense slowed down just enough that this really, down the stretch wasn't even that competitive. So I don't know. It's just it's another frustrating one, finding a different way to lose, I suppose.
Did they really find a different way? Because it was just like not having any answers down the stretch in offense, which
I haven't seen them lead by 12 on the road and then lose to the phone where it wasn't even a close game. It was not competitive in the last 10 minutes.
That's different, but like not being able to score in the final so-and-so minutes was just like Texas Tech at home, right? So I'd like to think that that's a one-off, a two-off, but I don't know that when the game gets tight, the refs call less at the end of games both ways. So the defense is tight, the ball pressure is more, there's little to no daylight, and it really comes down to making tough shots without really any kind of like super movement on offense, and it's tough to get any movement on offense, as we've discussed before. Like you kind of have to have that go-to guy that can go knock down the tough shot, and I'm kind of looking here, and I don't know who. You'll have a few of those guys that can step up and do it on a night here and there, but consistently, I think lacking that probably hurts you just as much in the last few minutes as anything. You can try to go through Coleman Hawkins, but in terms of creating his own shot or trying to score himself, he's not the best ISO player anyway, right? He wants to pass out of ISO, which is fine. But it's hard to pass out of ISO, and like you said, like you guys have alluded to in prior shows, that you don't just get enough movement. And then so you need a guard to go get a shot. And we talked all year, and it's still a situation where it's popping up, but they can't. The guards have a hard time they don't get into the paint. The argument comes as to is if it's a conscientious decision and that they don't want to, or that they lack the ability to, or know that they don't have the ability to go in there and be successful. Part of me thinks it's the last part, because I don't think, like, we see David Castillo shy from going in there. I think he's just too experienced and knows that he's not going to have any success. And quite frankly, he probably wouldn't, at least try to finish on his own. In terms of kicking it out, like, how good of a team do you have around you to do that, right? And then with Doug McDaniel, I don't think he has any confidence to go in there and score because we've seen the shots that he tries to make somewhat around the rim. He made one of them last night, but he has that weird looking, almost looks like a hook shot. When he goes in there, it's like a hook shot floater that, I don't know, it looks like maybe he's 40 to 50% on, I'd guess, at best. So I think it's more of a capability thing offensively in terms of being able to get into the paint, and they know it. So they're running out of answers. Defensively, look good in the first half, and then they give up 1.55 points per possession in the second half. 1.55. That means Baylor was scoring almost every freaking possession. I think Cole said it to us last night. I believe Baylor did score 17 in the final 19 possessions.
That's correct. Baylor scored in the final 12 minutes of the game. They scored on 17 of their final 19 possessions. They scored at least 1 point, guys, on each of their final 11 possessions to end the game. Now, K-State was fouling on purpose the last minute or so you could say that 3 of those possessions were just purposely fouling. You take that away, it's 14 of the last 16 possessions they scored, and 8 of the final possessions to wrap up the game that Baylor scored on. I'll be honest, K-State's defense was absolutely pitiful, and I didn't think they were good really even in the first half, to be honest with you. I thought they got away with Baylor missing wide-open looks. I mean, K-State's defensive rotations were disastrous. I've never seen so many wide-open threes in a game. I mean, wide open. K-State doesn't even have a hand close to the guy. And, in that final 12 minutes of the game, Baylor goes 5 of 5 from 2, 3 of 4 from 3. They have 1 turnover, and they go 15 of 19 from the foul line after attempting 2 free throws in the first half. K-State forced a 6.9% turnover rate in the game, guys. That is a season low forced by K-State. It is a season low for Baylor's offense. And Baylor was playing without their starting veteran point guard and Duke transfer Jeremy Roach. They got destroyed by freshmen. BJ Edgecombe, a freshman guard whose career high heading into the game was 20 points. He's only scored 20 points in 1 game this season heading into Tuesday night. A talented top-tier recruit, a top 20 recruit in the country, a guy averaging over 12 points per game heading into Tuesday or Wednesday night. So a really good player, but to allow him to do what they did and to not force Baylor into any mistakes offensively, they have 5 turnovers in the game when they're playing with Robert Wright, another talented freshman recruit, and Edgecombe at the guard position, followed by Jaden Nunn, and they only have 7 guys in their rotation due to the injury to Roach, and then Langston Love being out another game. You got to force them into more mistakes. And instead, it was K-State that was completely discombobulated to start the game with 5 disastrous turnovers in the first 5 minutes of the game. Now, they cleaned that up. And in the final 35 minutes of the game, they only had 4 turnovers, though one of them was a very bad one and crucial during the Baylor run. But, yeah, the defense was bad. And K-State's offense, guys, over the final 14 minutes, K-State took a 43-34 lead when C.J. Jones hit a 3 with 14:30 left in the game. K-State, after that, went 6 of 21 from the floor, under 29%. They went 3 of 12 from 3 and 4 of 8 from the free throw line.
After taking a 40-28 lead, he had outscored 42-22 in the first half, despite having that lead and eventually growing it up to 12. The problems were actually turnovers and rebounds, and they fixed both of those areas. The rebounds ends up relatively even as well. You only get beat on second chance points 14-9, points off turnovers 7-4. Both of those pretty minuscule, but you let VJ Edgecombe go off. You don't score in the final whatever, and you get absolutely shredded at the free throw line, which has also been a recurring situation this year where Baylor makes 17 free throws. K-State makes 5. The attempts were 21-9. Interesting that both teams shot the ball about the same. The difference being Baylor made 2 more threes. K-State made 3 more 2s.
Yeah, I mean, Cole, I'm with you. I felt like the first half was definitely just Baylor missing shots, and they finally came alive. They just felt half asleep for most of the game and flipped a switch and turned it on. But it's like, I mean, they also, they gave up 30 to Edgecombe. They gave up 18 to Jalen Celestine. So it's really only 2 guys that are hurting you. And Celestine went 4 of 7 from 3. They were leaving him just completely, high school wide open. And he's the one guy that can, well, not the one guy, but he is the guy where that's his specialty. He's a 3-point specialist. And there's just no, I don't know. It's just, it's infuriating, some of the stuff with this team to watch, because it just doesn't look like they're playing hard or there's effort or a lot of basketball IQ going on, just like little things that make a team good, there didn't seem to be much of that. And it's guards that will penetrate and then be scared about the time they get to the free throw line and run it back out and throwing it around the 3-point line. And like, if they get hot, then, they can be pretty competitive for a little while. And if the other team is cold, then they can be pretty competitive for a little while. But you just knew once Baylor started to turn it on, you're like, this team doesn't have a counterpunch, because they don't defend well enough. They're not consistently doing anything on offense unless they just keep draining threes. I don't know. It's just, I know this is not like the Houston game, like I mentioned earlier, but it was still it's disheartening to sit there and watch it for an entire game.
Yeah. I would say that there's always about, at the very least, 5 to 7 minutes where it seems like if there was a light bulb on, it's completely off, and your game's probably going to get decided by your inability to play anything relatively good basketball in those moments. I hesitate to say effort and energy were an issue. I think basketball IQ being an issue is definitely one of the top factors anymore. I just saw another stat that kind of made me chuckle, because Cole hit the nail on the head a few times about Baylor being able to do a lot of this even without their starting point guard, but they're without two guards, right? And Langston Love and Jeremy Roach. It shrunk their rotation down to 7 guys. And even the other two that didn't play big minutes were only playing less than 20, right? And they still won bench points 23-8.
Yeah, I mean, because Celestine comes off the bench, and John Celestine is a career 39.5% three-point shooter. It's basically what he does. He averages around 8.5 points per game in his entire college basketball career. He's a transfer from Cal. He's a shooter, 6'7", and just was left wide open. I mean, it was those two combined, him and Edgecombe, for 48 points on 13 of 21 from the floor, 15 of 17 from the free throw line, and 7 of 14 from three.
All right. I think this is just effort and energy were clear problems throughout most of the non-con and maybe even a bit of the conference. Now I think we're running into a situation, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, because I get that effort is part of your defense, but I also think it's at this point, like, this defense is just bad. And now it looks exponentially bad because they're playing really good teams offensively that have super talented offensive players that if you put a bad defense on them, they're going to have career nights. And that's what we just saw with, obviously, with VJ Edgecombe, and to an extent Celestine, because he can really knock down the three. Like, I wrote about this a little bit, and it wasn't like to just say negative, but it was just like, what does this team need moving forward? Because, it's going to be, if you're going to add anything to next year's roster, it's going to be primarily transfer portal, probably all transfer portal, because we haven't seen any movement on the high school front. What do you need there? Like, in terms of like constructing a roster and finding complete pieces, things to put together, like, they need a perimeter defender. I don't know that they have a bunch of guards that don't care, but they have a bunch of guards that can't play defense, at least not together, and at least not probably individually either. David Castillo is a true freshman that's really, really small. So that is the recipe to be a poor defender earlier in your career. Doug McDaniel, at first, probably didn't give a lick about defense. Now it looks like he gives a little bit of a lick, but he's also very, very small, and you're playing him with David Castillo a lot. That's not going to be a good defensive recipe. CJ Jones just doesn't fight hard enough, I believe, on defense most of the time. You could put him in a ball screen, and he's not really going to, with a lot of sense of urgency, get over the top of that screen, and that puts you in a bind right away, right? Brendan Hassan, very limited defender because of he's not going to be as quick or as athletic most of the time as the guys that he is guarding. The same can be said for Max Jones. The way this team, and we probably didn't give it enough attention or identify it as a problem in the offseason, so you folks can hammer us for that. But as a unit, the way that they are constructed, they are just not built to defend, especially on the perimeter.
Which is where they lost their identity, right? Because the identity of this program in the first couple of seasons under Jerome Tang was a good defensive team, top 30 in the country both years, can defensive rating and cap.
it's kind of a personnel issue defensively, though.
Yeah, no, I think they don't have the personnel to be a good defensive team necessarily. I mean, some of it is effort, but some of it is just lack of quickness, lack of basketball IQ, to what you said earlier, not understanding defensive rotations. Like Moby, and this isn't to pick on Moby, he goes in the game for a couple minutes last night, and I've seen Doug McDaniel telling him who to guard. Like, he's just lost out there when he tries to play defense. He's learning still. He's very raw, but he gives max effort. Guys, K-State allowed its 3 highest points per possession performances of the season, and they all occurred over the last 12 days. Houston was 1.3 points per possession, KU 1.31, and Baylor was nearly 1.22. And what makes this worse is Baylor in Big 12 play, and there's 6 Big 12 games entering Wednesday, they'd averaged under 1.03 points per possession. The most they had in the game was 1.13 versus Cincinnati. They had been struggling offensively, and that was with Jeremy Roach, who hasn't been great for him by any means, but still solid. And K-State just had no answers to stop Baylor. Baylor came into the game, guys, 332nd in the country in free throw rate. Actually worse than K-State at getting to the foul line. That was their second highest free throw rate of the season against Kansas State. BJ Edgecombe goes 11 of 12 at the free throw line. His previous 5 games, he combined to shoot 12 free throws. They couldn't stay in front of him. And this is what's even more disheartening, and maybe this goes to player personnel point, but also maybe coaching DY, is Baylor had 2 guys that were really hurting you, and you couldn't do something to stop that. Three of their 7 guys in their rotation are freshmen. And last night, and Norchad O'Meara couldn't do anything. And, he's a guy that's a really talented big, and he has 3 points on 1 of 9 shooting. And maybe it's because they were focused on taking guys like him away, but they couldn't do anything there.
They really crowded the paint. And I think they were really helping on him because he's by far was their best offensive player entering the game.
And I would just say this, and John, I'm sorry, we haven't let you talk a lot. I would just say this on the other end of the floor. When Baylor went zone in those last, 11, 12 minutes and really stalled out K-State's offense, DY, to your point, the guards don't penetrate the zone. First of all, it should be, zone defenses are not that hard to go against. It should be easy. Coleman Hawkins is your ideal feed it to the high post type player because of his passing ability. So Coleman Hawkins is the complete ideal guy to attack a zone because he sees the floor so well and he can do so many different things with the ball when he gets it. So get him in the high post, which they tried a few times. They couldn't get the ball to him. Get him in the high post, feed it to him. Struggle to do that. If you don't do that, your guards have to be able to attack and penetrate a zone. What made this worse to me is Baylor used to play zone in Scott Drew era when Jerome Pang was there, and they had a bunch of length. Baylor last night, Joshua Ojowana, I had his pronunciation nailed down. Ojowana, their 6'10" center. He wasn't on the floor most of the time they were in that zone. Guys, they were playing post players in O'Meara and then Celestine at 6'7" each, and then guards. This was not a long zone. They weren't lengthy. This is something K-State should have been able to attack, and they had no answers for it. Instead, they just pass it around the perimeter. And we talked about it before. There's no cutting. There's no movement. I just can't watch this offense anymore. It has to change. They have to install a new offense this offseason because I'm tired of watching such stagnant play on that end of the floor. I want to see, and obviously they got to overhaul the roster because they got to have more athletes and guys that can penetrate and get to the rim and finish through contact.
Yeah, that was not Torian Prince and Isaiah Austin were not walking through that door last night in the zone. That was not what you were dealing with. And I guess to your point, hey, even if you are going to be completely stymied by a zone, which, seems pretty elementary to be able to at least have some level of success against, you should have built up the lead bigger in the first half. I think that's one other point to slam home. When Baylor played as poorly as they did in the first half, you got to be up by more than 4. That was you're up by 4 at halftime after Baylor just completely sleptwalked. And that's, I don't know. We've talked about this before, and I'm usually the guy that's saying, hey, chill out about what they're saying after the game. It's tough in a losing season like this to keep saying things at the podium. But just looking at some of the quotes here, Tang saying so proud of their effort and togetherness. The results are not what we wanted, but I see a group that's continuing to get better. And, Hassan saying we proved we can play with anybody in the Big 12. I just I don't know, man. I shouldn't hammer them too much for that because I got to heed my own words. What are you going to say? But we see the same issues, and it feels like you kind of get varying levels of competency and effort and energy from the other team, and that's what it felt like that was last night. A lot was just what Baylor was giving you. Well, DY is wearing green today. It's not Baylor. It's North Texas.
They helped me out last night. Got a good win over Temple.
Okay.
Thought you were wearing it in honor of our guy Shane Porter.
That too.
So
Sure, everybody was locked in on North Texas and Temple last night, but hopefully you were wearing your home field apparel if you were.
Oh, I had a parlay with North Texas in it that would have hit. And I thought it did hit once Brendan Hodson got his 3 threes. Just going off scale here. But then Ole Miss collapsed, loses a 12-point lead in the final 4 minutes of the game. That's how I lose a parlay.
So you bet North Texas in 2 separate bets?
Yeah, no, I didn't do it by itself.
Oh.
Because the line was too big, so I just took a money line. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Ole Miss I was watching some of that after the case, and I turned it off because I was like, well, okay, this
is a bizarre way to lose, yes.
Yeah. Oh, the SEC is pretty wild, man. That's a gnarly conference right now. They're very good. Anyway, well, if you want to get SEC gear, I'm sure it's there at homefieldapparel.com. They've got 100-plus teams, 50-plus K-State designs. It's all the best gear around, so make sure that you get to homefieldapparel.com. And get some K-State gear for the rest of the season if you're going to Bramlage or if you're just going to be hanging out. Never too early to stock up for football season, or perhaps, Cole, what's the countdown for baseball?
First pitch February 14th. What's today? January 23rd. So that puts us at what? 21 days? 21 days till baseball.
Okay.
McKenzie updated us on the Discord last night. 46 days now as we wake up this morning till the end of basketball. So
okay.
I don't know if she's counting the Big 12 tournament, though, guys. We might have to stretch that to 49 because we'll be playing on Tuesday or whatever.
Tuesday.
Okay.
Good.
Well, Home Field Apparel will get you a shirt, a hat, whatever, for every single one of those days. You might not even have to wash them, especially if you use promo code 3MA24 to get 15% off your first order and save some money. Promo code 3MA24, 15% off your first order. We are back in just a moment.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
All right, I've got to make one other point from the game last night, and that is to those in the Discord. And by the way, patreon.com/3ma if you would like to sign up for the Discord. I made a statement literally, I think, 2 days ago that was like, hey, I'm very pro continue playing Ugo. Like, try to get some more out of him. And I know I said on the show after the Kansas game, I was like, damn, he just gives you a nice rim runner. You can lob it up to him. Helps a lot. I may be backing off that stance now. He played 13 hollow minutes last night. 13 minutes, no points, 2 rebounds, 2 fouls. I'm actually surprised, honestly, to see the 2 rebounds, because the thing that just drives me nuts with Ugo is, like, he's the tallest guy on the floor, and it seems like every single time a defensive rebound is taken down, it's by the guy he's standing right next to. Or every single time an offensive rebound is taken down, it's from the guy standing right next to him. Like, how he doesn't get more rebounds, I do not know. And so, like, if he's not scoring, like last night, he's not productive like he was at Kansas offensively. He took one really bad shot that felt like he was just like, hey, I haven't had the ball. I'm just going to go get mine and take a shot here. I mean, he's not doing that. I'm not sure what he's really adding out there on the floor.
My take probably just like our last show, really. Whether he's scoring 2 or 3 baskets or not scoring 2 or 3 baskets, unless something changes, I'm not sure if he's enough of a help otherwise to justify, I don't know. Like, because I say that, but it's like, what are your other alternatives to it? And if you're going to try someone to, like, beat them over the head to see if they'll become something between now and the finish, maybe he's the guy. I don't know. Because, like, someone's got to do it. Like, and is there someone else that we're not playing that should be doing it or deserves to be doing it? I don't know. But I do think, like,
well, apparently, DY, it's not Buddy Rich. I mean, is that just done for the rest, basketball reasons for the rest of the season? Like, what do we?
That's a fourth consecutive DNP for him. With Ugo, I think we know what we got there. I guess if you want to continue it for 13 games and hope that a miracle is bestowed upon Kansas State basketball and he figures it out, sure. Because like I don't know that you're going to replace him with anyone that's going to do anything remarkably different.
This by fall, is he able to put both hands up in the air to grab a rebound? Because Ugo doesn't, guys, he doesn't lift his arms to actually rebound the ball. Like, it's embarrassing. It's a joke, man. He's got 8 rebounds in his last 67 minutes of game action over a 4 or 5 game stretch. And John, you're right. I mean, every time the ball gets rebounded and he's in the game, it's usually his guy. And he's 7 foot tall. He has a huge wingspan, and he does not go up and attack the ball. Like
he did have that one nice block, though.
Yeah, one nice block. But let's talk about where the game maybe turned. When did the game turn in the game? I know what you're trying to do there, but I have to hammer this. Yeah. The arena lit up when BJ Edgecombe transition.
Business decision, baby. Cole, that's a business decision.
Attacked a K-State 7-foot center.
Yeah.
Who was right there and didn't even lift his arms and vertically challenged the shot and got it laid up on a 7-foot center. It was absolutely awful. And that cut the game to 45-40. The arena started going. And then the next possession, I think, Edgecombe dunks on David Gasson, which I can understand because Gasson had 3 fouls at that point. Like
there's also a thing because the guards, like we talked about, are so bad defensively. So there's easy penetration that you turn David Gasson into a type of defender this year that he's not. He's not a rim protector. He's a switchable defender.
Well, Gasson gave some level of that. Like Gasson kind of tried.
Yeah, I'm just saying we've had to almost turn David Gasson into a rim protector this year, and his yeah, I know, but I'm
speaking to Cole.
Yeah, but I just wanted to get this out there too. It is almost unfair to David Gasson that he has basically had to be turned into a rim protector this year because no one else is really playing good defense.
Like Ugo just got out of the way. I mean, Gasson at least jumped up and attempted something, but that was the crazy thing, Cole. It was like he literally just like ran out of the way. It was far when you watch. It was like a business, like, hey, this guy's gonna dunk on me, I guess. I mean, I'm assuming that that's what he's thinking. Like, I'm not gonna get put up on a poster, but
you were the second highest shot block defender in college basketball last year, and you're worried about getting dunked on by a 6'4" guard. And it's like, go up and contest the shot, foul him hard. I don't care. Show some assertiveness and aggressiveness. He's just, I won't say it, but I think you know what I was going to say. You got to be tough, and the lack of toughness there. So,
yeah. Well, I don't know. Any other thoughts on anything else? I think
Walker said it.
Yeah, he did.
CJ Jones is gonna,
The CJ Jones has just got to fight a little harder to me. I'll throw this out there because, like, what was working or what encouraged you that allowed them to run out 40-28? Because they had to be doing something right. They had a 40-28 lead. We can have some positives in here and not just completely crush a team that was at one point up by 12 in the second half.
I thought Doug McDaniel had a stretch where he was playing really well in the game. He had obviously a couple awful turnovers, but he ends up with 12 points, 5 of 11 shooting, 2 of 5 from 3. But at the end of the day, I think his last points, it looked like he was on the verge of having a big game, guys. And I think his last points were with 16 left in the game. And I went and I pulled his offensive rating afterwards because I thought it would be higher, and I was a bit surprised to see it was a 92.6 offensive rating, and now Doug McDaniel hasn't posted an offensive rating higher than 98.9 in his last 10 games. You need to be over 100 for sure. That's not good. Sorry, DY, that took it back to negative town for you. But yeah.
He had a pretty good, I thought, first 20 to 25 minutes. An issue there for him in terms of offensive rating and all that is, like, if he's not scoring, it's tough because I don't know how much of a creator he is for others.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. again, I don't want to be too overly negative or whatever, but it just felt to me like Baylor just sleptwalked, and they kind of took advantage of that. There were, yeah, you're right. Doug had a nice stretch. I don't know.
Okay. Bad question on the football.
Something else. I mean, Brendan Hassan got hot for like a second, and then, you know, they tried to go to him down the stretch, and that didn't really work. So,
to be honest, and I know it's like whatever, but like and I know he still got off 9 threes, right? So I get it, but like that's one of your best weapons, and he was 0 for 1 at halftime. Like, I get it that like it is what it is, but like you might as well like kind of go to it throughout the game or call things more. You know what I mean? Try to get him going in the first half too, because like, yeah, you want to be more than a Brendan Hassan 3, and you become probably pretty easily guardable if that's your go-to. But like, what other thing about this offense is completely remotely as reliable as him making a 3-point shot?
I don't know, dude.
So is it my point like valid then? Like, let's just keep trying to find more for him.
It is, but then it's like I watch him try and defend, and I'm just like,
you could hide one bad defender, and they got more than one.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Again, just back to like the pieces not fitting well together, right? I mean, that's the problem. There's nowhere to really hide him because you don't have good enough defense everywhere else. So
yeah, it's probably why we had a little bit of a debate of why are you calling your last time out with 5 minutes left.
Yeah, look, it's exhausting watching him because, like, to what John was saying earlier in the show, like, to me, it takes me back to the Jim Woolridge days of like, okay, they're ahead by 10, 11 on the road, or they're up by 4 or 5 on the road in a big situation. And my mindset is, well, how are they going to lose this one? Because I never think they're going to finish it. And 15 straight road losses. And a lot of those road losses, guys, were very winnable. You guys know this. I mean, they commanded leads in the second half of a lot of those games, including leads in the final 4 or 5 minutes of the games during this 15-game road losing streak. And, you know, last night you had a Baylor team that looked flat and lethargic for 30 minutes of the game or so, and couldn't capitalize. I mean, you were attacking the paint 20-4 at half on points in the paint. And then, yeah. Anyways, it's we'll just keep talking about it. And
quick note about the women's basketball program before John segues to football. Obviously, Ukulele out probably around 6 to 8 weeks. I guess that's a week less now or so if you're listening. At the moment, they are more equipped to win without her, so we'll see what happens. And a big, also today's Thursday, so Wednesday night was a big development at TCU lost to Oklahoma State women's basketball. So Kansas State now all alone in first place.
Now, Oklahoma State's 16-3 overall right now. So was that their first? Did they have one loss in the league or two?
It's a good question. I know TCU does only have just the one loss now after losing to Oklahoma State. I'll bring it up right now. It's been undefeated. The one loss teams are TCU and Baylor. Oklahoma State is 2 conferences.
Oh, okay. This plug, I saw Jasmine Halliburton. She has Tamira Poindexter on a KCSN show as
that's a difference maker. Yeah, that's why they have a chance without a Ukulele. Yep.
So check out her show on our feed on 3 Ma as well on the KCSN feed. As she had Tamira Poindexter, one of the top players on the K-State women's basketball team, on the show this week. So go check that out for sure.
And their next game is Saturday at Colorado, 2:00.
Nice. Well, I was going to say before football, Scott Drew apparently came into the locker room to give K-State words of encouragement last night with Cole. Is that going to turn the season around?
No.
So. Okay. All right. Well, we covered that. All right. Well, our good friends at Alenco have you covered for any home improvement need that you have. Make sure to go to alencohome.com. That's ALENCO home.com. We do have some good football news here. Let's start with the visitor. I think a lot of people are potential visitor here. We expect that K-State will get a visit from George Fitzpatrick, Ohio State offensive tackle. Now that Ohio State's season obviously ended with a national championship, K-State needs tackle help. And they landed Brandon Snee, which is really big, and it sounds like, early returns on that seem very promising. But DY, how likely do you think it is that K-State can add another transfer here, and what would this mean to land somebody from the, as we know, thanks to you earlier this year, the vaunted Ohio State offensive line?
Oh, yeah, right. That actually turned out to be a really good unit by the end of the season. So one of the more improved ones in college football. But you got to think you have a shot, right? They're one of the, I think, a few schools that are in contention. Ohio State season obviously just ended with the national championship, so he'll be able to focus on his recruitment moving forward. I think he's probably going to be a heavily sought after recruit because, to be honest, he's going to benefit from the art of supply and demand. I think at this point, being at the end of the portal window or right before you can maybe have enough time to enroll on a campus where everyone else is pretty much unavailable now because they've already picked their schools. They're not, even if they've entered the portal, they've already chosen to sign somewhere else, but teams still have needs, but the pickings are slim. So I imagine the market's going to be pretty hot and heavy, but I do think that Kansas State, due to his, I think, connection with Gabe Powers, who's a Ohio State linebacker that signed with Kansas State's already on campus, you would think that they have a puncher's chance, probably more than a puncher's chance. I'm probably underselling it, but it fits a lot of needs. I think he could play a little bit of guard and tackle, but obviously they probably want him at tackle more than anything.
Certainly would feel really good. Well, not really good. Feel a lot better about the offensive line room if they add Fitzpatrick because he's, P4 type player. I think Brandon Snee is still going to be a little bit raw, and so it would shore things up a little bit if they could add him as well. Langang has shown the potential to play offensive tackle as well for Kansas State. Then you got John Pastore, you got Gus Hawkins, a redshirt freshman coming on. So I'd feel good about that. They'd have enough options that I'd like to think that two of them will be solid at that point that'll come through for this offensive line. So would be a big addition for K-State, as you mentioned, DY, very heavily coveted. Seems offensive tackles in the portal might be one of the most coveted, expensive positions from what we've gathered. So it would behoove K-State in the future here to not have to attack the portal for offensive tackles, it seems, which hopefully with some of the young guys they have in the locker room, they won't have to do that as much in the future.
Yeah, not a position quarterback or tackle for sure. You're going to be paying a lot. You're going to be paying a lot. So
Receiver.
Yeah, keep your eyes posted on George Fitzpatrick and what's going on there. K-State did add Ralph Ortiz, who is a linebacker from West Florida, University of West Florida. This is somebody that I think we expected to be there and just had not gotten an official announcement, but he's there. A lot of speed here at the linebacker position, adding some more depth there. That is one of those spots. You just mentioned Gabe Powers. I mean, I feel a lot better about linebacker after what they've been able to do in the portal.
Yeah, you're keeping Austin Romaine. You keep Desmond Purnell. Rex Van Wy played a little bit last year. You keep him. You hope that there's something that Asa Newsom can provide once he recovers from another significant injury. I think Jake Stonebreaker is a redshirt freshman coming into the season this next season that they're having confidence in now as well. He played in the bowl game a bit and was on special teams even in the last portion of the season. So a guy that they have are starting to believe in and putting some responsibility towards. So you know that he's going to be a part of this thing moving forward at some point. You add in Gabe Powers, you now add in a Ralph Ortiz, who we'll see. They needed to get quicker. They needed to get faster at linebacker, in my opinion. Ortiz does accomplish that. He was an all-conference player at the Division II level. 2 years ago as a freshman, I believe he was the defensive freshman of the year in Division II, or maybe just the All-Gulf South Conference. I'd have to double-check that. A little bit on the lighter side, just a hair of 200 pounds, but if he's going to play the same linebacker, it's not completely scathing, and it sounded like it's the guy that they also were really impressed with when he initially made his visit to campus, that they think works well with the culture. Someone that could maybe even put on another 10 pounds and maintain that athleticism and speed at the same time. So, and it sounds kind of cliche, but there was no media saying that he signed. There was no, him making an announcement, he quietly puts it in Kansas State football's Instagram bio and just shows up to workouts in class on the first day of campus. If I'm being cliche, that sounds like pretty much like a Kansas State kid.
Which is interesting because you would think as a guy coming from the D2 ranks, like you would want to really just be like, I'm going to the Big 12, man. It's like push it hard. Probably very businesslike and focused on football, and you appreciate that. And look, I think he can be a nice depth piece for this season. You watch his tape, as DY said, he can really run. That flashes. He's physical. Needs to add some weight, as he mentioned, which he hopefully can do because he's got the body type to do it. But really good speed and athleticism. There'll be a transition from the Division II ranks to Power 4 football, but I do like that he's here for spring ball. And I think that's something like it feels like DY between the high school class they brought in and the transfer portal class, a ton of guys here for spring ball, which is pretty significant in my mind.
Yeah, it kind of helps you with the guys having enough guys at positions. Like in the past, they haven't had enough guys maybe this spring at certain positions where you almost had to modify practice a little bit because of off-season things and injuries. You're recovering from surgery that you had to have following the year. You bring in a bunch of freshmen, a bunch of transfers that can go right away. You can shore some of that stuff up.
Snee will be here for spring ball too, right? Brandon Snee.
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, he actually is. We know he's here. Actually,
I was just and we know he's there. Yeah.
Yeah, we do know he is here. So, guys like that, Ralph Ortiz, Brandon Snee, that are coming from FCS or D2 level to get into the strength and conditioning program as well earlier and get them time.
Moss.
Yeah. So that all helps. And, obviously eager for football to get here. What is that? 219 days on the countdown clock to Ireland? 220?
Like that, yeah.
Just going to Ireland?
Well, wait. Hey, I got one thing real quick because I do have something on Ireland. But Parker on the Discord said that he compared Ralph Ortiz to DeCorey Johnson, which Cole that got me excited because remember some of those battles we had back in the day with Snyder where it was like, dude, why is Will Davis playing in front of DeCorey Johnson? Like, why is this happening? And then they played Auburn, and it was like, oh, crap. All right, well, we've got to play the athletic guy at linebacker because, this is the Auburn team that just played for a national championship last year. And then DeCorey Johnson was the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Week. So,
yeah. They rolled him and Travis Green out at safety that game, remember?
Travis Green, that's right. Yeah.
So they became much more athletic. I don't know if it was Dylan Schnellenberg that he replaced in that game. Is that right?
I think it was, yeah.
And so they became far more athletic and delivered a tremendous defensive performance against Gus Malzahn's Auburn team that had a lot of offensive firepower and held them to 20 points. And yeah, DeCorey Johnson, really solid player, came from the JUCO level to K-State, and they finally gave him a chance, and he proved himself to be really solid. So, Ralph Ortiz, I like that comp by Parker, and would take for sure. So hopefully he can become that.
That's if you could give me a chance to sign on the dotted line for that right now, I would do it in a heartbeat.
For sure.
Okay, so D-White, you mentioned Ireland. I saw the media email that went out that was like, hey, we're trying to get a head count here if you're going to Ireland or whatever. I was like, damn, man. Really? I mean, I know it's not really like that close, but it's like we're already people making plans for Ireland. I do not have plans to be there right now. We'll see if that changes, but so hey, if someone wants to send me to Ireland, I will go. So just let me know, anybody out there. But Cole, you're not going either, are you?
I don't think so. No, I don't do very well on really long flights. Get too, bored and stir crazy.
How long is the flight to Ireland?
How long is it, DY?
I don't want to look.
I'm looking it up.
Okay. By the way, K-State on FanDuel opened up as 1.5-point favorites against Iowa State. It's now 2.5. I think DraftKings had it at 2.5 as well.
I think what sorry, cut you off there, Cole, but I think what'll be more comical will be Mason Voth flying overseas.
Does he keep flying?
No, he just has no culture.
Oh,
outside of Hutchinson, he had no culture.
I gotcha. Yeah. Minus 126 on the money line for the Cats in Ireland.
Cole's smart. Cole's like, I'm not going to attack that because we always make fun of Cole for being the uncultured one here. I tried to take him to a museum one time and it didn't go well. And
Speaking of uncultured, John, did you see the Discord last night? It was
Spear text, and I was like, I have no idea what's going on here.
It was on another level. Over 400 messages in the Hoops channel in a span of like 20 minutes last night. Late in the night, I think most people woke up and were like, what on earth happened? It was basically Tate, Calm, me, and a few others interacting, and I sounded pretty uncultured in there. I thought that they were talking about this Khalifa person, and I thought they were talking about the former BYU center.
Was her first name Mia? Is that what was happening?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And the reason that came up, guys, is because
I don't want to know.
Tate was posting an article from Marshall Henderson, the former Ole Miss player, and he plays in Iraq now, and I don't know how it came up, but Tate pulled a fascinating article about Marshall being quoted playing in Iraq, and the quotes in there are pretty astounding. And then Calm had said that he thought this Khalifa individual was from Iraq, so it can't be all that bad. And then I was like, the BYU player, and they thought I was joking. And then I was like, no, wait, are you like, what are you guys talking about? Like, I thought you were talking about the guy who transferred to Louisville now that, So then I put a picture of him in, and then they were like, oh my.
No, you didn't put a picture of her in.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
Don't Google that at work. Don't Google that at work. Do not do it.
Well, they told me she's a singer, so I don't, that's what they told me on there.
She's had some other career endeavors. All right. Nick said 9 hours for the flight to Ireland. Over, under. Are you guys going over, under 9 hours? Because I have the answer.
I'm going to say over.
Under.
The correct answer is, it says 6 hours and 57 minutes. So DY wins.
No, 6 hours and 57 minutes. And that's from here in like Kansas City?
Well, I mean, I'm sure there's not a direct flight from Kansas City to
Kansas City.
It's talking about if you were to leave from, it says you can get a direct flight from Chicago, Washington, New York, Newark, Boston, Philly.
Yeah, I'm going Kansas City to Chicago, then over. Yeah.
I don't know. Are you flying first class, DY?
I don't think so.
I flew first class to Maui. I would probably need that for me to be able to do that and pull it off.
Cool.
So.
We're going to need some more people to sign up at patreon.com/3maw if any of us are going to be flying first class to Maui. It's Ireland. Or Ireland.
Vanessa told me that she booked that off of like points, but I don't know. I never checked. So I probably.
It's a lot of points.
Yeah. I'm surprised she wasn't pushing for an Ireland trip.
She doesn't want to go to Ireland, guys. Pubs and basements and stuff isn't her thing. It's more a beach vacation. So she actually said she would like to go to the next Caribbean island hoops tourney that they're in instead. But I believe they play in Kansas City this next year. So I was like, well, honey, we're going to be like an Iowa State fan, and we're going to go get the Marriott downtown, and we can hang out by the indoor pool if they have one or something, and I'll put some sand down or something for you. So, yeah, she might have a couple years until one of those Caribbean tourneys comes up again. So.
Yeah, well, take her to Sandals Power and Light. It'll be great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
maybe I'll celebrate I'll get that for an anniversary gift or something for her. So
sounds lovely. Okay. Well, any final thoughts? I don't know where we go from there exactly, but anything else? Now that we've emptied that clip.
Oh boy.
DY, you started this, by the way. You started pushing us down this road. Okay. I will just point that out. You got to know your teammates. You can't open up that can of worms. And it's like, you can't be like, hey, we got to really defend this possession when we're the K-State basketball defense, okay? You know your teammates. What did we just talk about?
Well, I'm trying to find the Marshall Henderson stuff right now.
Okay, okay, cool.
I've lost it. It was I was laughing so hard in the Discord last night.
Yeah. Shout out to Marshall Henderson, one-time loser in Bramlage Coliseum.
Would have played him in the NCAA tournament if not for LaSalle.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. Well, we did the sponsors proud today.
Another Ole Miss mention.
Ben Holiday Bottled and Bond Bourbon from Holiday Distillery. Go check it out. Sure this was entertaining enough to crack some of that and listen to it. Thanks to good friends at Homefield Apparel, homefieldapparel.com, promo code 3MA24, 15% off your first order. AlencoHome.com, people, if you have home improvement needs. Thanks to Nick Springer behind the scenes. I would say sometimes I say like keeping us on the rails. I'm not sure that really happened today, but we're still here. We're still kicking, and we will talk to you again very soon here on 3MA.